All right, hello everyone. So today we've decided to take this adventure outside because it is sunny in the Vancouver, obviously here in Canada. But it's worth coming outside. I thought I would show you guys this area of the house that I grew up in. I'll do that once I talk to you guys a little bit more about the adventures we got up into in France, in Nice, southern France. So we finally got out of Italy. It took us about 18 days. Loved every bit of Italy, but it was time to depart. And on our departure, in the train ride, is where I think the first story comes from. So the first story I have in the journal from that train ride is the fact that we took an overnight train that had these 6 chairs in it, obviously 4 of us, and then there was these 2 other people, and we were supposed to be able to sleep in here, but it was pretty hard because the 2 other people were 2 Italian macho men. One was a big, fat, smelly Italian dude with lots of character, and his friend, who was this tall, slim-built boxer. I would say he was probably a semi-professional boxer, a little bit crazy in the head, and the 2 of them essentially kept going to the bathroom throughout the entire train ride I'm assuming, to do drugs, because when they came back they were wired and bouncing off the walls, not to mention they were drinking beers and offering us beers the whole time, so it was pretty uncomfortable taking a sleep in this train with them from Maori to Nice, but it was quite the adventure. It reminds me kind of the Euro trip scene where they're all in that train and they go through the tunnels and there's a creepy man and they jumping around and he's here and he's there and he's kind of everywhere, being all weird and awkward with the group of people who are traveling, the Americans in that movie who are traveling in Europe. So it was quite a memorable experience, I would say, just the train ride itself. And we finally got to Nice and we settled down into Nice, and it was really just a quick couple. I think we only spent 2 days in Nice. It wasn't very long, but the hostel we stayed at was really nice. It had a really open downstairs lounging area where lots of people are socializing, drinking beers, and dealing with buses and getting like all their travel itinerary stuff worked out. For me, in Nice was actually the place where I officially changed my flight. Instead of going back to North America or Canada with everyone, I decided to stay for an extra couple months and change my flight to September 11th, which was quite something for me. I was like, oh, okay, well, we're changing it to September 11th. That's kind of weird, but nothing obviously happened, and it was just kind of a unique or odd coincidence, I would say. And so the things we got up to in Nice, the first day we were there, we actually headed out to a town called Franche Sur la Mer, and it was about a 30-minute train ride outside of Nice, and it was a place that Mitch wanted to go to because his mom, Lisa, was there about when she was in her 20s, and she wanted us to go check out this place called Chez Mer, and this old hostel bar that she stayed at. So we went on this adventure to this town, and this town was absolutely gorgeous. There was this castle on the hill, and it had this small bay with boats anchored in it, with a small promenade around the bay, and all these small touristy shops and little fancy restaurants and whatnot. So once we got there, we just kind of walked around, and we knew where Chez Mer was up the hill, just across the highway. So we started walking up the hill, got to this castle on the hill, which ended up turning to be like a walled city, I guess, way back in the day. That was set up on this point, which was pretty crazy. So that was a pretty cool experience, just to see what a small walled city would have been like, of a couple hundred people, and that they had preserved very well with amazing lookouts onto the ocean. And then from there we went to Chez Mer and we enjoyed some beers, and apparently there used to be a turtle there, but unfortunately the turtle was no longer alive that used to walk around in the bar. Pretty crazy that was a thing, but unfortunately we didn't get to see that. We just got to kind of live in the memories of Mitch's mom and kind of see what the place was like. And this place had bills all over the walls of all the different currencies, everything from Canadian dollars to US dollars to all the old European currencies to some Eastern currencies and African currencies. There was really all sorts of currencies in this place. And then from there, we headed back into town and we enjoyed some really, really good meals. We actually found a really good 3 kind of course meal deal for lunch, and we enjoyed some salmon and mussels, and I think there's prawns in there as well, and some wine, and the frites or fries as we call them. We also enjoyed that, and it was really cool getting into French because I actually speak French, so I actually started to understand what it was like to apply the language that I learned in elementary school and throughout high school outside into the real world and in context where you actually are benefiting from it properly. And that was a really cool experience, which I will talk about, I think, further next time when we moved. I guess once we got back into France, there was some better examples of me being able to use my language to my benefit. So once we had kind of gotten through all the Franche Sur la Mer town and we experienced all of that, we headed back into Nice that night, and we were socializing with some of the hostel people. And I remember there was this Irish group of girls that were socializing with us, and we were playing drinking games with them, and they were playing drinking games with us, and we were just kind of going back and forth. And we realized we're only in Nice for one night, so we thought, hey, what the hell, can we come out with you guys? And so the four of us and these three Irish girls were like, yeah, we're gonna go to this pub called Wayne's World. And we're like, Wayne's World, all right, that sounds kind of interesting. We're like, what's that? Wayne's World? Like, oh, it's an Irish pub. So like, great, we're going to an Irish pub in France. That's, I mean, like, I don't know, not so hyped about this, but it's gonna be, I'm sure, a fun time. End up getting there, and this pub is just like tiny little pub. Tons of picnic tables, and apparently this was the night to go, because this is the night that they allowed everyone to get up on the dance floor. Well, there was no dance floor. The dance floor was the picnic tables and the picnic table benches, which was absolutely insane. So you're sitting there, you're standing on picnic tables, dancing around. My head's like hitting the air conditioning unit on the head, on the roof, and then there's this tiny little stage. It's probably like, 8 by 8 feet, and there's four guys sitting there jamming to old punk rock tunes, and it was just like the atmosphere in there was so sweaty but so amazing. The energy was incredible, and it was one of those memorable moments of going out in Europe that I won't forget. It was kind of more the party scene I would say I was more into versus just like the dubstep and Berlin scene that I was in later on. But this was really one of those nights where we got to go out and we had a ton of fun, sweating away and dancing our hearts away in this tiny little Irish pub in southern France called Wayne's World. But I mean, that was one experience, and I think that some of the other clubs in Nice obviously will be amazing as well, because I think Nice was known for this nightlife, or still is, and we only unfortunately had one night there to check out what was going on. And the next morning we got up, and this is actually where we decided to part ways with Lisa and Mitch. They were going to go up to northern France, and Jen and I were heading over to Spain. So let me just make sure I've got all the stories there, but I'm pretty sure those are kind of the most memorable moments of Nice. Clearly, they're the ones that I remember, and I don't remember anything else. Oh, I told you guys I was talking about how I went pescetarian. So I actually went pescetarian from Maori all the way through into Nice and all of Barcelona, and then I finished that off into Dinan, France, which was the place in northern France that we ended up going to. So the first couple days on this experience of being a pescetarian and not being able to eat meat and only fish was unique. Even though we kind of stayed on the coastline, so I was eating mussels and fish and prawns and lots of seafood. It was the night we went out that I was like, oh, I really want to go get some food. And I was like, okay, I'll get a quick food. We'll go to Subway, get a sandwich. And I realized the only thing on a Subway menu for a pescatarian or a vegetarian at that time in Nice was the tuna sandwich, the spicy tuna sandwich, and the veggie sandwich. That's not very many options. So, I mean, I started to really sympathize with this idea that, like, people who either choose dietary restrictions or have dietary restrictions really limit themselves and are limited, I guess, on the options that they can choose when it comes to going out. You look at menus, you're like, okay, all the meat off the menu. Now you gotta look at seafood, and we're sitting in a southern France on the Mediterranean where there's supposed to be lots of seafood, and even there the options were like, yeah, they're there, but it's like, you kind of have that normalized idea that you would have more options than when you're just restricted to the seafood on the pescatarian diet, when you're only limited to like a small section of the menu, and you have to choose one of those, and if you don't like them, well, that's kind of too bad. So I really started to kind of get a feel for what it was like to be a pescatarian. I don't think I really liked it, because clearly I'm still eating the way I am, or I was, but it was an experience in its own to explore what being a pescatarian would be like. So I think that's all that we had in Nice, and I hope you guys are enjoying these stories as much as I'm enjoying telling them to you guys. I'm trying to work on my storytelling skills, but if you guys have any suggestions, drop a comment in the link, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to give you guys a tour of what my backyard was like when I grew up. I'm not sure how long this house is going to be with us, so this is what our house was looking like in the summer of 2016. You got our maple tree. Unfortunately, it's not doing too well, but yes, we are in Canada and we have a maple tree. Don't get any maple syrup out of it though, or we haven't tried, I don't think, ever. This is where we like to play our bocce, the barbecue, and I think this is the most infamous area that I've spent most of my teenage and youth years here at the campfire. We used to grab these chairs and these benches and the bench over there and all gather around the campfire and just hang out, play the guitars, and just talk about what there is to talk about. And then here's the rest of the backyard. And as you can see, we don't have a fence in our backyard, so we're actually able to just kind of walk on up in here into the forest behind my backyard, which is where Emerson and I used to grow up and just screw around in here. So I really hope you guys are enjoying these videos, and I will talk to you guys next time. Peace out.